Forrest Blanton's. Wow. That's different. I really like that. Peychauds or Pechaud's or Pechaud.
Yeah, now I'm gorgeous. Although probably fuzzier was better.
Okay. So this is not what I expected. Hey, it's Thursday. How are you tonight? Boy, we got a lot to cover. We're going to be doing Jesse James. It's an 80 proof. Why are we doing Jesse James? Because it's still Sober October, and I'm still doing low proof pours. Have I done well with Sober October? Mainly, yeah. I've been a little bit proud of myself. When I do have a pour, it's low proof, generally. There have been 2 days so far this month that I went off my bourbon diet. I had a little bit too much gin one night, and one night I just needed something. So I had a little bit of Jim Beam, which is 80 proof, and then I just decided that ain't getting it. So I went back to the 114 Old Overholt that I love so much, and that was my pour that evening. But for the most part, I've been pretty good. Haven't had hardly any this week. Can you tell? Tonight, I made a turkey breast in the Instant Pot. If you have never done that, you should do that. It is the weirdest thing. You take mayonnaise and spread it all over the top of the turkey, and then the seasonings and stuff, and you put it upside down in the Instant Pot. 32 minutes, then let it lose its steam over 20 minutes naturally. Yeah. My son doesn't like turkey because it's always dry, but he liked this. Okay, let's get into this, shall we? I already opened it because I wanted to make sure that it was open, because sometimes I struggle with that. This is the Jesse James. It is not necessarily named after the Outlaw. I know the bottle wants you to think it was named after the Outlaw, but it wasn't necessarily named after the Outlaw. It even says the original Jesse James. America's Outlaw Bourbon Whiskey. I would think that if you're going to do an Outlaw Bourbon Whiskey, that it would be better than 80 proof. Just saying. Just saying. But let me give you the deets on this. Jesse James is named after Jesse James Dupree, who is the owner of Mighty Loud Enterprises, and you may know him as the front man to the chainsaw rock and roll band Jackyl. They did the Lumberjack song back in the 90s. Remember that? They've been together 29 years now. They're still touring, still doing their thing. I mean, shoot, they may only be doing state fairs, but they're still getting paid and they're still doing what they love. So who can complain? But that's who owns the brand, is Jackyl, and then there's one other guy, I forget his name and what he does. But in 2011, Dupree launched Jesse James, America's Outlaw Bourbon, which has exceeded all expectations. Is sold in 40 states. Hey, Aaron, how are you? Sold in 40 states and in other countries. In less than 5 years, the brand has sold over 150,000 cases. This is a bit of an old bio. Full Throttle Distillery in Trimble, Tennessee, revitalized the sleepy town of less than 700 people and has generated jobs and tourism that was key in pulling the town out of financial hardship and back on the map. Recently, Dupree and his partner, there it is, Michael Ballard, opened the Deadwood Distilling Company in South Dakota. That's one of the states that didn't close. Florida, well, they did a little bit, but South Dakota is one of the states that didn't close. This is 40% ABV, which is 80 proof. It's aged for 36 months. Distilled and mellowed through old-time charcoal. So mellowed through charcoal, that means charcoal filtering. That would be indicative of a Tennessee whiskey. Okay, that's the Lincoln County process. Now, it doesn't say that it's maple charcoal. It just says charcoal. So it may not be Lincoln County. We'll find out when we taste it. Let's see. Very smooth, full bourbon character. That's great. This is a Heaven Hill distillate. A lot of people originally I was talking to people and they thought, you know what, this has got to be an MGP. And it's like, yeah, it might be an MGP. There's a lot of MGPs out there. Over almost 390 brands are MGP, but this one is not. This is a Heaven Hill distillate, which means it's going to have a Heaven Hill bourbon footprint, a bourbon mash bill. Their go-to mash bill on just about everything is 78% corn, 10% rye, and 12% malted barley. That does not mean that that's what this is. But I'd be willing to bet that it is. So, again, 78% corn, 10% rye, 12% malted barley. It's the same mash for everything that they make as far as bourbon goes, including Evan Williams, the Heaven Hill brands, Henry McKenna, and Elijah Craig. All of them have the same mash bill. I would be very, very surprised if this one didn't have the same mash bill as well. Only a 3-year age. Bourbon doesn't have to have an age statement. It doesn't have a minimum age for bourbon. If it's below 4 years, it needs to have an age statement somewhere on the bottle, and I haven't looked. This whiskey is at least 24 months old. That's all they have to say. They don't have to say how long. At least 24 months old. Let's see. There's this one that they make. There's a Tennessee single barrel and a honey-flavored whiskey, which I don't mind that. I haven't had very many of them, but I don't mind that if it's done well. And then they also have one they call a spice whiskey, which I think is like a mix-up or a mash-up between this one and the honey. That's kind of the feeling I got. It was this one and the honey mashed together to make a bottle, a brand. So, Joseph watching. Hey, Joseph, how are you? That's really all there is to say about this. I mean, it's owned by the guy who fronts Jackyl. It's 80 proof. I gave you the mash bill. There's not really much else to tell you about it. So let's go ahead and give it its college try. Then I got something I want to show you. It's really cool. I picked it up last Sunday. Actually, there's 2 things I picked up last Sunday. So just stick around. I'm going to tell you what I got, and then I'm going to tell you what we're doing next week. This might be one of the shorter ones. Because there's nothing much, I mean, there's not... Ooh, that's very grapey. Very fruity on the nose. Ooh, that's a surprise. I mean, if I didn't know better, I'd say that was Concord wine. Got a lot of honey in it. I put it in a Glencairn because I was thinking that an 80 proof wouldn't spread out or if I put it in a glass that had a wider snoot, that it would spread out too much and I wouldn't get good nose. So I wanted to put it in this so I could get those aromas concentrated at the top, and I'm glad I did. Gosh, yeah, that's very, very fruity. I like the nose. It's very different. Honey's just kicking me in the face, and there's vanilla in it. Very sweet nose. There's some ethanol to it. Very fragrant. You could put this in a bathroom spray. I don't think you should. Plug it in, right? Okay, I am not seeing any comments come across my screen, so I'm going to switch over to here. All right, there we go. And there haven't been any, so that's why. All right, let's give this a try. That is surprising. Okay, so it's very thin on the mouthfeel. So adding a little water may be just the ticket. We'll do that in a minute. This is very, very simple, very smooth. It's 80 proof and it doesn't have a lot of burn to it. But there is a little there. For new bourbon drinkers, this may be one that you're going to be able to feel that ethanol on it. This is a precursor to what I'm going to show you in a little bit, but I went fishing with a friend of mine down in Knox County on Sunday, and he had wanted to try the Crown Peach. Now, Crown Peach is 70 proof. And I gave him a sip out of these little communion glasses that I picked up, which is a great way to do tastings, and especially if you're driving. Just a taste. That's all you need. And I ended up giving him the bottle because I've got other peaches here, and I can get peach really easily, whereas he may not be able to find it as easily as me. So I just left him the bottle. But at 70 proof, he could tell that there was ethanol in it. I mean, he was still like, ha. But he's not a bourbon drinker. He's just getting started on some things, and he wanted to try it. He loves peaches. He loves everything peach flavored, so I let him have the bottle, and I'm glad I did. I think he'll enjoy it a lot. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, but I think he'll enjoy it. Let's get back to this. I want to see if I can find some flavors for you, because the palate was different than the nose. The nose was very grapey, very fruity, vanilla, honey. The palate was flavorful. It was surprisingly flavorful. But let me see if I can pull out some notes for you. It's very sweet. Some maple syrup. Did your voice just drop an octave?
It might have. But this is when the devil comes out. It is October, you know.
I'm getting some caramel on it. Brown sugar. It's not as sweet as the Angel's Envy rye. It's not as brown sugary and sweet and maple syrupy as that. As a matter of fact, there's no maple syrup in this. Did anyone else hear that? You're freaking me out. Quit it. It's not fruit forward on the palate. It's caramel and brown sugar forward on the palate. Maybe a little maple syrup. Nothing like Angel's Envy rye. And definitely some honey. I'm trying to find that fruit. As fruity as it was on the nose, I'm not finding it in the palate. I'm going to do one more, and then we'll put it on water. No, I'm not getting grape like I did on the nose, which is good. I mean, I actually think that this is quite flavorful. This is $15.91. It's only 80 proof, but I mean, shoot. If all you want to do is just sip and enjoy your sipping and not worry about having too much and killing your, we'll leave that undone, killing your liver. You could do worse. I've had several people now tell me that they really like this pour, and 2 of them worked at a liquor store. They really like this pour. I am surprised by it. I do like this pour. Now, is it all the badassery that this guy wants it to seem like? Jesse James, blah, blah, blah. Hey, Michael, how are you? Is it badass? No. No, it's 80 proof and it's fruity on the nose. It is not badass. It's not rock and roll. It's not Jesse James outlaw gun stuff. It just isn't. By the way, I put out the photos that I took today I put them out on several different groups, and I really didn't get any votes. I wanted them to vote for the one they liked the best. So the guy who gave me permission to go to the ghost town where I did the photos chose the photo. And I will go back to that. I'll show you what that photo was, because I like it too. Here it is. This was taken through a window at a covered bridge in a ghost town. I will post the rest of the photos when we're done with the Bourbcast. You can see all of them, because shoot, I got the opportunity to take photos of Jesse James Bourbon in a ghost town. I got some great photos, and I'm going to want to show these off. So I'll put those on here as soon as we're done with the Bourbcast so you can see them. And then, if there's one that you like, that's great. I think this is going to be the poster child for it, though, because it really did turn out good. Although, all of them that I chose, there were like 27 that I took, and of them I chose 11, and still, they're all really good. I even went in, the ghost town has a tavern. I went inside the tavern and took photos. How cool is that? You'll get to see that here shortly when I put them online after we're done. All right, let's do some water. See if it improves the mouthfeel at all. That's a milliliter, so that's going to really hurt that 80 proof. That's going to really proof it down. I may not sense any more ethanol, but it may give me a more silky mouthfeel. This was a very thin mouthfeel, and I like it to be a little more robust than that. I like it to be silky, chew on it a little bit. So maybe this will help that. It did help it. Didn't do anything to the flavor, which is nice. You want to make sure you don't add too much, but it did give the mouthfeel a little bit more viscosity, which is nice. I like it to be a little more viscous, although that's a terrible thing to call bourbon, viscous. Just reminds me of like the Dr. Seuss story where the guy got stuck in the oobleck. Look it up. If you don't remember that Dr. Seuss story, that scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. The oobleck. Got all over him, and it was all sloppy and sticky, and I could just imagine getting sucked down into the oobleck. Blah! That's what it reminds me of, viscosity. If you don't remember the oobleck, then your parents didn't read to you. Let me just go there. It did help the mouthfeel. It didn't kill the proof that bad. If you want a little bit of ethanol on it, okay, don't do the water. But if you want that more creamy mouthfeel, add a milliliter of water. I think you'll be happy. Charles, how are you? Hey man, you got to try this. If you get a chance, this is the Jesse James. It's very fruity on the nose, very sweet on the palate. I think you'd really like it. And it's cheap. In Ohio, it's $15.91 for that whole bottle. $15.91. And you'll appreciate this. I know you're just joining us, Charles, but Jesse James is actually Jesse James Dupree, who is another celebrity, but he is the leader of the band Jackyl, who did the Lumberjack song in the 90s. So you can appreciate this being a musician yourself. All right, so we're gonna do the ice test. What I brought down is I brought a new glass. I got a buddy of mine that is kind of a pack rat. He cannot let anything sit. If he sees something on the side of the road that's meant to be thrown away, if he sees something next to a dumpster that's in perfectly good shape, he'll pick it up. I am the recipient of dumpster diving. They are perfectly fine. I washed them. They look great. Put them in the dishwasher so they'd be nice and sterile. But I'll never put these in the dishwasher again because they're crystal. They're very. I think they are. Maybe they're not. Anyway, they're very nice. They're very pretty. And there's only 3 of them, but they're free. And if something happens to it, I won't cry too bad. So let's do an ice. My ice sphere broke in half. The heck? Aw, bummer. All right. I'm about to sneeze. Trying really hard not to. Not gonna work. I'm not done. There's more. While this cools off, I'm going to finish this. Did I tell you about this? I'm sure I told you about this. I'm going to repeat this, though, just in case. There was a period in my life that I was on the radio. I was on the radio for almost 20 years. It was my career before I got into filmmaking and everything that I do now. This funny stuff. There was probably 6 months, 9 months out of that time that every time I wanted to crack the mic, I sneezed. I don't know if it was a nervous reaction. I don't know if it was psychosomatic. I know it's a big word. But I don't know what happened, but for like 6 to 9 months, every time I cracked the microphone, I had to sneeze. So there was times that I would psych myself up like I was going to crack the mic, and I bring the pot up, that's the slider, bring that up, and bring it back down and then sneeze, and then bring it up just a little bit later. Fake myself out. That's how I got out of it. That's how I stopped doing it, is I started faking myself out so my body wouldn't know exactly when I was going to crack the mic. Isn't that funny? Anyway, so I think this is because I had a lot of pepper in dinner tonight. I do like that pour. All right, so got it in ice. Brian says, you're welcome. I know I'm missing stuff here. The pitch of your voice was fluctuating like a slow-mo replay. What happened with that? It's probably your connection. Could be my connection. I'm actually recording this on the camera as well as on the computer, so if there's something weird, it'll be gone when I upload it to YouTube. By the way, if you go to YouTube, search for Beautiful Bourbon. This is number 121. 121! And this will be up probably sometime tomorrow. Like it. Algorithms help with that kind of stuff. Like it, subscribe, do the bell thing, whatever the heck that is. All right, so this is Jesse James on ice. If you think about it, Jesse James. Let me give you some Jesse James story. Jesse James was an American outlaw, train and bank robber, and sometimes Confederate soldier, along with his brother Frank. Jesse James died at the age of 35 after being shot in the back of the head by the coward Robert Ford, who infiltrated his gang not to actually be a part of it, but rather to kill Jesse James and bank his reward as well as amnesty for his crimes. Legend has it that Jesse James got up. He was looking at a dusty photograph in a frame, started to dust it off, and that's when Mr. Robert Ford came up behind him and went blammo. And he was tried and convicted and sentenced to death by hanging. Robert Ford was. But his sentence was commuted by the governor of Missouri at the time. That was part of the deal. You killed Jesse James, we're going to let you off. But he did have to go through all that stuff first. They had to find him guilty of a crime, and then the governor pardoned him. All right. So, but that's not really what this is named after. That's named after the guy that runs Jackyl and other stuff. Look him up. Jesse James Dupree. Look him up. He does a lot of stuff. He's involved. He's an entrepreneur and a successful one at that. The flavor holds up on ice. I let that sit a while. That's really cold. And I've got 2 pieces of my sphere since it blew apart. The flavors are still there. As a matter of fact, it brought back a little of that fruit that was on the palate when I did it. Well, that was on the nose that I didn't get on the palate. The fruit's back. There is zero bite to this, but there's a lot of flavor. Very Concord grapes is what I'm getting, as well as the honey and the caramel and all that other stuff. The flavor holds up. It didn't fall apart. That's a surprise. I've had much better bourbons that fell apart on ice that this one did not. So if you like your ice, or you like your ice cold, if you like your bourbon cold, you might think about this one because even though the bite of the 80 proof doesn't hold up, the flavor does. Right, enough of that noise. All right, so I wanted to show you a couple things I picked up, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do next week. Some of you were here last week and you already know, but I'm going to do it anyway. The buddy that I went fishing with on Sunday, his father passed away in January, and he was quite the collector. He went to auctions and got coins. He collected yearbooks. He collected videotapes. He collected CDs and DVDs. He collected everything. I mean, the guy was a collector. And some of the stuff that he collected was really cool, particularly as it pertains to his bourbon collection. And there wasn't a big bourbon collection. He wasn't a big drinker. But when he saw something he knew was cool, he grabbed it. And one of the things, and some of you may have already seen this, but I'll show it to you again. This is the Mount St. Helens Jim Beam from 1980. Now, I've had this in my collection a little while. I traded a motorcycle for it that I haven't ridden in a very long time. But, and it hasn't even been in my house for probably a decade anyway. No longer than that. Anyway, about that. Anyway, so this is Jim Beam, and I've tried this juice, and it was actually pretty good after all those years because it's opaque, and he stored it well. And it has a little bit of Mount St. Helens ash right here in a tube in the back, which is just totally cool. I mean, Jim Beam was so smart when it came to their commemorative bottles. Just so smart. And this is the plume of ash, just so cool. So what I've just recently acquired from the same gentleman, my father from another brother. It doesn't rhyme, but it's the truth. Well, let's show the little one first. This is going to be a decanter. That may be what this was meant to be to begin with. I'm not exactly sure. My grandfather had a smaller one of this, and it had what's it called? It's not perfume. It's guy perfume. I can't think of the name of it. Eau de toilette. No, it's perfume too. Anyway, so I'll just make sure it didn't have cologne. No, there's no smell of any kind, so it hasn't had anything in it, at least not anytime recently, and it was washed well. So this is the Liberty Bell, and this could be a really nice decanter for something. I could turn this into an infinity bottle if I wanted to. I really don't have much of a desire to do that. And if I did, I'd want to do it along a theme like everything Buffalo Trace makes, or everything Heaven Hill makes, or I wouldn't want to do just every bottle because that just seems too disparate, you know? Disparate with an I. Look it up. Okay. All right. So, but the other thing that's really cool is it comes along with the same vibe as the Mount St. Helens, and that is the commemorative I Dream of Jeannie bottle. This was also Jim Beam. I don't know the year. And it doesn't say. Oh, wait, it might. It's upside down. Creation of James Beam, Distilling Company. It's got the license number. Does not have the year. So I will have to do some looking up of this one. I want to say this might be, it's got to be, older than this one. I Dream of Jeannie was in the 60s. So here's what we're going to do. It actually still has some of the tape here that taped it shut. Now, there's no sticky left on that tape at all. I mean, it's just fluttering in the breeze, but it's there. And it screws out. It doesn't pop off like a cork. It screws off. And it smells fine. And it's got this little spout. I feel like I ought to be rubbing the genie out, but I'm afraid. It's got this little spout. And I'm only going to do a little tiny bit, because this has been around for a while, and the last thing I want to do is drink it up. I dream of genie. Isn't that gorgeous? Jim Beam, man. I wish I would start doing this again. All right. So this is from who knows when. This could be 40, 50 years old. Or not. I'll have to look it up. This has more ethanol than this on it. It's got a great bite on the nose, though. I could just smell that. Caramels are strong, cinnamon. There's a little bit of black pepper on it. Like I said, he kept his bourbon well. And he I don't know how he knew how to keep it, but he kept it well. And Jim Beam, at the time when they made these, they did a good job of making it so light couldn't get in. Isn't that cool? Aaron says, look at the tax stamp on the label of the tape. Ooh, that's a good idea. I don't know if these glasses are good enough. I will have to get better glasses, Aaron, if I'm going to do that. So I'm going to use 2 pairs of glasses just so I can get it on it nice and tight. Bureau of ATF distilled bottle. It doesn't have the date on the tape, Aaron. That was a great idea, but I do not see it on the tape. It looks like there might have been some markings that have worn off over time. There's definitely some gunk down in the spout. It's not going to stop me from trying this. All right. There you go. You've seen me nerd out with 2 pairs of glasses just because I can't see. All right, here we go. Here we go. If this kills me, I leave everything to the guy who gave it to me. Because he doesn't have room for all my stuff. All right. It's no more than an 80 proof pour either. Got tobacco notes for it, almost cigar tobacco notes. Spicy. Very spicy. I can't even tell you what that is. Herby. Not cloudy at all. It's not bad. I think the Mount St. Helens held up a little bit better than this one did, but that's not bad. All right, so that's enough of I Dream of Genie. Very cool. Beam, says right there, Beam. Very cool. And I thank you for this, Tom. That's going to go into my prized area of my collection. It's just gorgeous, and And thank you to Tom Sr. for keeping it in such good condition for so long. All right, next week, let me just check something real quick. I want to see where we are. If I look at the calendar, come on, calendar. We have one more week of Sober October. So we're going to do that with Basil Hayden. Basil Hayden, this is an 80 proof pour. It's an overpriced 80 proof pour. I've tasted this before, but we're going to do it one more time, along with toast. Along with the toast. So here's Basil Hayden, here's Basil Hayden toast. Both of them have been tried, but not on their own in a Bourbcast. So we're going to do this, 80 proof, and this will be the last one that we do as part of Sober October. And I will tell you now, I'm going to be very critical of these, but I'm going to do my best to tell you the difference between the two. By the time next Thursday rolls around for the next Bourbcast, I may have yet another Basil Hayden. I'm so hesitant to buy it because it's so overpriced. So incredibly expensive for what you get. I'm very hesitant. However, there is a new one that has just come out that is in a wine barrel. I was in the liquor store the other day. A guy was so excited about it because he loves Basil Hayden. He picked up 2 of them, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm not a Basil Hayden fan, but we're going to give them a proper tasting, which I have not yet done. Giving them a proper tasting, nose, palate, water, ice. They get the treatment, the gauntlet, next Thursday as we wrap out Sober October. I will tell you, I've had just a little bit of this and just a sip of this, and Sober October is reeling its head. I feel this a little bit. Maybe it's because it's cheap booze. I don't know. It's so good. Yes, sir. You think Basil Hayden is good? Okay. All right, guys. Thank you again for being here. We've had some pretty good, lively discussion here tonight. I appreciate that. And for those of you who showed up and didn't discuss anything, I appreciate that too. That you're here and you're enjoying this and you stick with me, that's great. Thank you for doing that. I may just be background noise like a radio, but I'm your background noise. And I appreciate that. So we will see you next Thursday. In the meantime, we are keeping things up to date on the YouTube channel. So go there and subscribe and bell it and blah, 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 whatever that, and like it for algorithm's sake. We've got over 40 subscribers on YouTube now, which is kind of cool. I'm not going to complain. That's not something I expected. So, you know, this is episode 121. This will go up probably tomorrow on YouTube. We also still do Instagram, although I'm really starting to slide on that. And the blog, yeah, that's out of date. That's at beautifulbourbon.com if you want to check it out. Every Bourbcast we've ever done is there, even the ones that really looked and sounded horrible. But they're there. So you might want to check those out. In the meantime, thank you again for being here with us. And I thought this was going to be a shorter one, but it turned out I have this stuff to talk about and whatever else, so it went a little bit long. So I appreciate you hanging out. We will see you next Thursday. You enjoy the rest of your week, and your wonderful weekend is supposed to get warmer. Yay!